With reporting that the state official medical examination has now been completed in the Nolan Wells case, even though the results haven't been released, I think that tells us something big. I want to get into that and the new developments that we're seeing, like arrests and a potential new video coming out. Welcome to Sidebar, presented by Law and Crime. I'm Jesse Weber. Another week, and we have more updates in the Nolan Wells case. The mysterious death of that 18-year-old college football player whose body washed ashore 2 days after he went missing while out on a boating trip on Horn Island, Mississippi during the July 4th weekend. This barrier island 10 miles off the Gulf Coast. Later on, I'm going to be bringing in forensic death investigator Joseph Scott Morgan, because I think the reported announcement that the official state autopsy of Nolan has been completed, while the results are not released yet because the investigation's ongoing. The case is going to be reportedly sent to a grand jury to see if there are criminal charges, whether they should be filed. Nonetheless, I think that this announcement, this reported announcement that the report is done, the autopsy has been completed.
The state official medical examination has now been completed. That one sentence, buried in local reporting from WLBT and attributed to officials familiar with the investigation, landed like a seismic charge. Not a leak of the findings, not a press conference, just the clinical confirmation that the report exists, signed, dated, don't. And immediately after that confirmation, the door didn't open. It locked tighter. The case is now reportedly being steered toward a grand jury. Which means this document isn't being withheld from the public because it's incomplete. It's being withheld because it's evidence. Think of this report not as a medical file sitting on a desk, but as a sealed indictment waiting for a courtroom. The state of Mississippi has completed its scientific examination of what happened to 18-year-old Nolan Wells, the college football player who vanished during a July 4th weekend boating trip to Horn Island and whose body washed ashore 2 days later. And now the state is treating that report like a weapon it will not unholster until the precise moment it chooses to fire. Before we go deeper into what the documents actually show, make sure you're subscribed to the VerdictOrigin. Because we don't just cover the story, we follow the evidence to understand why that single word, completed, changes everything.
I want to get into something else. Okay, so now I want to talk about the state autopsy. And remember, this comes after Nolan's family had ordered an independent autopsy. We've talked about this before. Undetermined cause and manner of death. It was limited, right? It was limited in that it was reported what they had of Nolan's body, that Nolan's throat was not present. So it was believed that the state ME had kept those throat and neck components for further testing. But now you're hearing this word that the state autopsy has been completed. What does this mean? What should we take from it? I want to bring in...
You have to understand what an autopsy report actually is. Forensic death investigator Joseph Scott Morgan broke this down with clinical precision.
I want to bring in forensic death investigator Joseph Scott Morgan from Jacksonville State University, host of the Body Bags podcast. Joseph, my friend, always good to see you. Thank you for taking the time, because I know you're a very busy man. Talk to me first about, we obviously don't have the contents of this, so we're going to be, but I think it tells something. I find the timing interesting. I find the timing that they, if this is true, if this reporting is true, that they've completed it. What does that tell you?
Well, complete means complete. You can actually literally use that, because they're not going to say that, Jesse, unless they have the tox and they have the histo, which is the microscopic report. They have that stuff. So, if you think about an autopsy report, very broad terms here, it's got essentially 4 components. You've got the physical gross examination that we do in the autopsy lab, right? Where we're looking at everything, we're examining organs and all of that. Then you have chemical testing, which is toxicology. It's going to be a broad spectrum report. We call it a standard panel. So you name the drug within reason. Okay, I'm not talking about some kind of exotic kind of thing, but within reason, drugs of abuse, prescription drugs, I mean, we would do aspirin. You'll see salicylates on there. Of course, blood alcohol is a big key here, right? That's something we're thinking about. And in addition to that, third part is going to be will be the histo report, where you're actually taking the samples like the lungs, okay, the lungs and any other tissue samples that they've taken through, and they put them on microscopic slides. The doctor will issue a report relative to that. Here's the conclusion of this. You're going to have the death certificate too, and it will have, in my opinion at least, it's going to have the manner of death, one of the five. Everybody's kind of wondering what this is going to be. And then it will.
A complete autopsy file has 4 components. The physical gross examination, what the pathologist sees on the table. The toxicology panel. The broad spectrum chemical analysis that screens for drugs of abuse, prescription medications, blood alcohol, everything down to aspirin. The histology report, tissue samples placed on microscopic slides and examined at the cellular level. And finally, the death certificate itself, which assigns one of 5 manners of death and a specific cause. The state of Mississippi conducted the initial physical autopsy on July 7th. We are now well into August. Toxicology panels take time. Histology consultations, including any neuropathology specialists brought in to examine nervous system tissues, take time. Morgan's assessment was blunt.
So we understand the reporting signifies that the initial physical autopsy was done on July 7th. The testing,
Yes.
like you said, takes longer.
Yeah.
And histology, which you talked about, can take several days, weeks. It's all.
If they're saying it's complete, he stated, they have the toxicology. They have the microscopy. They have everything. And then he added the line that should reframe how everyone watches this case from this moment forward. Quote, I would be very surprised if it was left undetermined at this point, considering how much time they've had to do scientific evaluation.
Well, if we were to believe what we are hearing, right, and I don't want to steal your thunder, but I think it was ABC that was reporting over the weekend that it's been released. If this thing it's been completed, is the next step to grand jury. That's why we're not seeing it.
No, it's 100% what it seems like it's going to be, that it's
Yeah.
part of the whole investigative file. Don't really know how far along the sheriff's office is in their investigation, if they're not ready to hand this over to the DA for potential presentation to a grand jury. And even if it is presented, whether or not criminal charges would be recommended, it's a component of this.
That is the ticking clock. The independent autopsy commissioned by Nolan's family came back undetermined, limited, incomplete. The independent examiner, a highly respected former chief medical examiner for Washington, D.C., didn't have access to the throat and neck structures, the hyoid bone, the trachea, the strap muscles, the frenulum, the carotid vessels, all the internal architecture that tells a forensic pathologist whether someone fought for air, whether someone was held down, whether the water in the lungs got there by accident or by force. The state of Mississippi retained all of that. They have held those structures since day one.
Going back to that independent autopsy, when they said that there were components of the throat, maybe neck as well, that were removed or weren't present, we've assumed that means the state ME has done further testing on it. What can we expect regarding the testing on that? What clues that may reveal?
Okay, I'll go ahead and tell you what they probably retained. I don't know this for a fact, but I will just say standardly, we're talking about from the tongue all the way down to where the trachea actually bifurcates into the lungs. So that entire structure system that's in there, that will have been retained. They still have possession. Starting with the tongue, you're going to look for any trauma on the tongue that you cannot appreciate if you just open somebody's mouth at autopsy. And you're going to look for biting of the tongue, any kind of contusions that might be there. One of the things that they would have done at autopsy, you were talking about drowning as potentially a weaponization of drowning. One of the things we look for, if everybody will take the tip of their tongue and put it between your lips and your gum. That's called the frenulum. That little piece of tissue can get torn if somebody's holding your mouth like this, like a suffocation. That will have been examined thoroughly. Um, the connective tissue within the soft palate going down into the throat. We're going to look at the hyoid, right? And he says in his report he couldn't appreciate the hyoid. The hyoid is with them as well. Okay. So they're going to look for those bony structures that are up here. Also, all of the cartilaginous bodies that are contained in here. We're talking about the pharynx and the larynx and the trachea and all of those structures that are along there. We're also going to be looking at the vessels, the carotids, jugulars. And here's an important thing right here. We've got what are called the strap muscles, kind of interlaced like this. They would have done a detailed dissection on that. That's going to tell you if there's any underlying hemorrhage right here. So they've retained all this. So it's not just like your windpipe, okay? Because I think that a lot of people think that. If you're retaining things, you're going to retain things. And this is all of these structures that kind of play into the breathing or the mechanism of breathing when we initially inhale or exhale. And then you've got the lungs, and we don't really know what the status is. I don't know if they retained the lungs in Mississippi as well, or if they were dissected and then placed back into the bag. I do know that the physician up in DC actually makes comment regarding, he has submitted, I don't know if you saw this, Jesse, maybe not, I can't recall, but he has submitted his own histology. So
I didn't know that.
Yeah. If you check his report out, he actually alludes to the fact that he has submitted tissues for his own histological examination.
You're saying his own toxicology.
And now they have completed their analysis of them. If the state had found nothing, if this was simply an accidental drowning, what possible reason would there be to seal the report and convene a grand jury? In what universe does a determination of accidental death require a panel of citizens to review potential criminal charges? The logic collapses under its own weight. They know. The question isn't whether they know. The question is what exactly they found, and who else knows it too. That unanswered question now hangs over every other development, in this case, like a storm front that refuses to break.
But I'm not surprised. Did you know that there is a fake toxicology report that is making its way online? Yeah, according to WAPT 16, Mississippi Public Safety Commissioner Sean Tyndall is telling the public that there is a fake toxicology report going around online. He posted this on social media. Quote, the purported toxicology report from Nolan Wells circulating through social media on various outlets is fraudulent. Nolan's family, friends, and most importantly, Nolan himself deserve better. And I'm not surprised that we're seeing this.
A fake toxicology report has been circulating online. Mississippi Public Safety Commissioner Sean Tyndall was forced to post a public statement calling it fraudulent, writing that Nolan's family, friends, and most importantly Nolan himself deserve better. At least 2 people have been arrested for making threats connected to the case. One allegedly placed 30 bomb-related calls to state government offices investigating Nolan's death. Another stands accused of sending a message to a federal judge whose stepson was reportedly on the boat with Nolan that day. A message so specific and so violent, it warrants reading in full.
Threats, okay? So apparently, now at least 2 people have been arrested and charged with allegedly making threats connected to Nolan Wells' case. The Cincinnati Enquirer reports that Michelle Francine Edwards allegedly placed 30 calls to 2 state government offices regarding bombs. The office is investigating Nolan's death. The Sacramento Bee reports that Joseph Alfredo Vasquez Dumarque was accused of sending explosive-related threats on social media to a judge whose stepson, apparently Warren Hudson, apparently a friend of Nolan, was on the boat with Nolan that day, facing at least 1 federal charge right now. And these alleged messages are quite chilling. Quote, there will be a package coming to your guy's office in the next few days. It's going to blow you away when you see it. LOL. Probably best to have the boys there to see as well. Blood, so much blood everywhere. Hard to clean, especially from a boat. But yours will be quick, I promise. I got all your info. Not even the FBI can stop this. And this comes on the heels of Nolan's
Quote, there will be a package coming to your guy's office in the next few days. It's going to blow you away when you see it. Probably best to have the boys there to see as well. Blood. So much blood everywhere. Hard to clean, especially from a boat. But yours will be quick. I promise. I got all your info. Not even the FBI can stop this. And alongside the threats, the timeline keeps shifting. New video has surfaced. Footage of the Mac Daddy boat uploaded to Instagram that TMZ claims bears metadata showing it was recorded at 12:23 p.m., a full 37 minutes before the last officially acknowledged sighting of Nolan Wells.
Apparently, new video has come out. There is this footage here that was uploaded to Instagram by a user where you see the Mac Daddy boat, and that seemingly matched previously obtained and released footage. Now, notably, the person who apparently took this video says they captured this at 11:17 a.m. TMZ claims the metadata shows this was recorded at 2:23 p.m. Now, remember, the current account has been that those who were with Nolan saw him last at 3 p.m. And the footage, again, seemingly matches the older footage of a black male wearing those blue shorts that seemingly are the same ones that Nolan appears to wear in a photo that is circulated of him that day. So this new clip appears to be clearer quality. TMZ claims that the adults in frame are different than the ones in that older clip. So is this currently the last known image of Nolan Wells before his body washed up on that island?
The adults visible in this new clip, according to the reporting, appear to be different individuals than those seen in previously released footage. Every new piece of evidence pulls the official narrative further apart at the seams. The truth is not settling. It is fracturing. They know. That's the refrain now. They know. The state medical examiner knows what the toxicology shows. The Jackson County coroner, an elected official.
This come from the state medical examiner's office. But Mississippi is a coroner state, so guess who the gatekeeper is? It's that county coroner. And so they're involved in this conversation, and they'll, the coroner themselves will have to sign off on this. And they're an elected official down there in that area. I think it's, correct me if I'm wrong, I think it's Jackson County is the name of the county.
It's Jackson County Coroner Bruce Lind.
Yeah, so he's involved in this process. It's not merely the state medical examiner. So the elected coroner they're going to be involved in this, as well as should be, right? And if truth be told, his eyes were the first eyes from a medical legal perspective that were on the case, on this young man's body. So when they brought him in from offshore, the coroner or one of his deputies would have physically been there. Then the body's going to be transported to the state medical examiner's office facility. So, their input is going to be critical.
Who was physically present when Nolan's body was brought in from offshore, and whose eyes were the first from a medical, legal perspective to examine those remains. He knows. Sheriff's office investigators, who Morgan insisted would have been physically present in the autopsy room, standing face to face with the pathologist, asking the question directly. What is this? Explain this to me so I can understand it. They know. And if the grand jury presentation proceeds as reported, a group of ordinary citizens will soon know as well. The gatekeepers are no longer gathering facts, they are making decisions about who to charge. They know. Here's what we want you to do. Pull up the publicly available independent autopsy report commissioned by the Wells family, the one conducted by the former D.C. Chief Medical Examiner. You can find it through standard legal document repositories and news organization filings. Read the section where the examiner notes what he could not examine. Read what he says about the level of decomposition. Read what he says about the red discoloration on the back of the head, a detail that the Mississippi State Medical Examiner either saw or didn't see, either documented or didn't document in that first examination on July 7th.
Oh, that's so interesting. Before I let you go,
yeah.
The red discoloration. on the back of the head that was referenced in the independent autopsy, is this something that's going to be referenced in the ME's report? And if it is not, what does that tell you? Does that mean that it wasn't on Nolan's body during that first exam? What was present in the second exam?
That is a fantastic question. That's why I go back to the decomposition that the doctor makes note of. And he even says that his ability to, and I'm paraphrasing here, please, don't take this out of context,
Sure.
but these focal areas that he kind of shades in like a rectangle, which I found kind of interesting from my perspective. If it was not there when the Mississippi ME saw it, then is this something that developed as a result of the travel from Mississippi to Washington, D.C.? Was this a decompositional artifact in total? Or was there something else there? Remember when the folks at the ME's office with the state of Mississippi, they will have seen this a lot sooner, right? They will have had, and the level of decomposition will not have been the same as it is as once they got his remains up to DC, and his body has not been preserved to the best of my knowledge. I did not see any indication in the report. I might be proven wrong that the second, because when you do autopsies on bodies that have been embalmed, that is a specific thing that is made note of in second.
Then ask yourself one question. If that mark was not present when the state examined the body, but was present when the independent examiner received the remains after transport, what does that tell you about how much time bled off the clock?
Here as well, Jesse.
So Bruce Lind originally told CNN that there were no signs of physical injury, right? Preliminarily. The independent autopsy didn't find apparently any lacerations or gestures or deep tissue incisions or anything like that, other than they've talked about this red discoloration on the head. What could change? What could change to determine that there was some evidence of foul play? What would you be looking out for? What could change between that and there?
Well, there's stuff that the coroner could not have visualized at that point in time. It just viewing the body externally. We don't know what the pathologist saw when they got Nolan on the table, at the state medical examiner's office. So we're talking about internally, because you can see things internally that do not necessarily present externally. And my friend, there's another component to this that I'm very, very curious about, and that is the level of decomposition, because the second ME made specific reference to this multiple times in their report, because it actually kind of, I'm not going to say confused, but it made it more complex. That physician, who again, I have to say this, he is highly respected. This guy's a former chief medical examiner for DC.
Dr. Mitchell?
Yeah, Dr. Mitchell, highly regarded, highly respected. He did a multi-layer dissection on this area back here, as he did. And if I remember correctly, it hadn't been dissected the way he dissected it. And there were other dissections that were done as well that I will not go into just out of good taste, but just suffice it to say this was a very, very thorough examination. As a matter of fact, it actually fits into the same category from a medical legal perspective as what we do with the remains of anybody that dies in custody, or that is in the custody of a police department or in a prison. Those autopsies are really intense, take hours to do. And so he took that step with this case. So this guy has covered everything to this point. And
drop your analysis in the comments. We read them. They know. And soon, when a grand jury returns its decision and that completed autopsy report finally moves from the evidence file into the public record, we will know too. If you want to be notified the moment that happens, like this video, share it, subscribe to the VerdictOrigin, and turn on notifications. We don't chase headlines. We follow the evidence.